What is happening, guys? It's really been some time, I think, since I got in front of the camera, and I'll tell you what the reason for that is. But I I got brought back here because, well, for one, somebody told me that for you to be a professional YouTuber, you had to have a mic boom, even though a stand worked just the same. So here's me trying to be a professional and putting my best self out to you guys. All right. But more importantly, oh, also I got a pop filter, so my bad. I know some of you guys are complaining about the pop filter, but if you're new here, I know there's a lot of folks that just bought Palantir because it's super cheap, and you're probably right. But if you're new here, really all I talk about is why I manage or how I manage my finances, and a large part of that is actually in Palantir, and a bigger part of that is actually in Tesla. But I just want to track this so that 10 years down the line, when I'm sitting there with whatever gains I have, I can look back and say, okay, this is how I did, this is how I bought or whatever. Like, I may be able to track all my buys and all these other things and what I thought of it at that time. So it's really important for me because I have a little bit of a learning disability, so I tend to forget things very quickly, and I definitely need to have these kind of moments where I can track it. Now, I've actually been doing this on the side before, but YouTube is probably good so that you guys can share in on it and express your thoughts and tell me if I'm stupid or not. All right. Anyway, getting back to it. The point I'm making this video is, guys, like, I'm not going to give you an update for every little thing. Every time Alex Karp scratches his ass, I'm not going to tell you about it. Okay, I respect your time a little more than that. So if you feel like that's what you need, then you might want to go somewhere else. But I do want to tell you something about. So I was scrolling through Twitter. I'll just get right to it. And there was a tweet by Sedo Can. Here, check this out. This is at least a week old for sure, at least like 4 or 5 days old. So Setokan, thank you for tagging me on it, man. I really appreciate it. I'll chime in on this, but basically, guys, look at this thing, right? So Palantir Foundry Application Builder. This is from Satori. So basically, this is a company in Germany that employs around 10,000 plus employees, right? I think it's around 14,000, give or take. Now, I'm going to get to the importance of this in just a second, but before we get started here, I really want to express this one thing, okay? There's a lot of really crazy sentiment out there for Palantir and just generally in the markets. We are pretty much in time of war. It's not specifically coming out here to the West, but it is a time that everybody's watching to see what's happening in the world. I'm specifically talking about the Ukraine and Russia situation. But more importantly, guys, I think the message here I'm trying to get across is that we all need to just chill a little, okay? Like, this post right here that I was talking about spurred off some crazy bull bear debate where some guy was like, oh, who cares, it's going to $7 and all this other stuff. How do you know that, man? We don't know that. Nobody knows that. To be very honest with you, though, I did make a video back in November saying oh, what I'm going to do for the next 6 weeks. I was pretty much right. And I made a podcast with Chris Patel, one of the first ones I did, where I was like, where I think a few of the folks, and I'm not going to say who because, I don't want to call people out, but they were calling that $11, $10, sorry, $12 amount as the bottom. And I was like, nah, man, there's a lot more pressure. And I still think there's a lot more pressure, right? We just don't know what that pressure is going to do. It's pretty low right now. It's very cheap. I haven't bought anything because I literally have $80,000 in taxes to pay. But outside of that, I think once that's done, probably in a few months, I'll start to really piece my finances together to either move towards a bigger purchase or something like that when it comes to Palantir and Tesla. The reality of the situation is, as software companies progress, especially a company that's at the same stage as Palantir is at right now, for example, there's a few things to look for. In this case, this is an external company that is using Palantir, for example, and they're hiring people and they're saying, okay, if you have Palantir, this is an asset, right? But on top of that, Accenture and all these other consulting companies are also hiring for somebody who has Palantir and Foundry experience specifically. So this is kind of a bullish sign, just because you have to understand, usually it comes down from the consultants, right? So the consultants will have, and part of that reason, by the way, is mainly, and this is not the only reason, but this is one of the reasons that I know, is because companies don't want to really commit to something just yet, right? So they might have some sort of contract or whatever the case is, but at the same time, they don't want to train up their own staff just yet. They want somebody to come in who's probably a little more experienced, and they pay them a higher rate to be kind of expendable, right? So essentially, for example, my job, I'm pretty expendable. I get paid a lot, but if something happens, I get fired too. I get fired real quick. So basically, they want to hire folks that have this kind of experience, that come in and they can do what they have to do. They're like, you know what, we'll give you full reign. just do what you got to do and set up an entire environment. And then once some sort of environment is set up, we can onboard full-time staff and actually train them up from the internal side of it and do their certification from Palantir or whatever the case is, right? And this is classic because what happens is if you hire full-time staff and you want them to go into Palantir, for example, they have no idea what they're doing. It's a very tough situation. But if there's already an environment or something that's set up and pipelines and all these different things that are set up, user accounts and stuff like that on the platform that's already set up, when folks are brought in, they're sort of a little more used to what they're used to in the past, which is kind of a siloed work, right? So they're used to, people that come onto this platform are used to doing their own work in their own platform. Whereas now Foundry, everything is all like meshed into one. So they have to have some sort of familiarity. They have to be like, oh, okay, this is the stuff that I'm used to. Oh, what's this other thing that other people are also on? Oh, this is like the whole pipeline or the chain or whatever the case is, right? So they need to have some sort of familiarity, and they usually will hire consultants to either set up the pipeline or set up some sort of user accounts and stuff like that, essentially the environment, so that when these full-time staff get onboarded, they're a little more familiar, but also have insight into the stuff that's new and the new features that Palantir provides so that they can interact a little more, seamlessly. So just keep that in mind. That's a very, very bullish sign. Anyway, that being said, you guys have to relax. If you are a long-term investor, you need to be able to just take it easy, take a step back, and relax right now. If you are not comfortable buying at this position, don't buy. That's fine. Nobody's telling you to buy. Yes, it's cheap, for sure. What is your time horizon? Like, what exactly are you looking to get out of it? I told you guys before, my super bull case for Palantir is not $1 trillion like a lot of these other guys talk about. Even though I made a video on it, I told you why I thought about it in that video. But my actual bull case in this thing is probably around like 250 to 350. In which case, actually, right now is super really good, right? Because it's way more than a 10x. So, as far as I see it, it's still pretty cheap. I'm not buying though, because one, the tax bill I was talking about, and two, I think there's a lot of pressures in the market right now, specifically from this war situation. But even before that, actually, there was pressure from, for example, just the tapering, right? So as they actually confirmed that they're going to taper, I think by 0.25, but at the same time, may not be the first one, may not be the last one. We don't know. And this whole China-Russia situation, it's putting a lot of pressure on things like wheat and a lot of futures and commodities, and specifically. So there's a lot of market pressures that come from that add to this whole tapering bit that was already there and this inflation bit that was already there. So we don't exactly know how these guys are going to act on it, and we don't know how people that are holding Palantir are going to buy or sell based on this information that's provided. And that's what's driving this entire price movement, okay? So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of retail investors in the stock, like you and me. So, if you really want something more stable, then go buy something from, I don't know, something that's more stable, okay? That's been around for like 40 years or something. So that's really up to you. And that's no gripe, right? Now, if you're a trader and you need this profit, or forget trader, if you're a short-term holder, and I consider anything less than a year or pretty much up to a year short-term. I know a lot of people say 5 years is long-term. Doesn't matter. Like over a year, I think is pretty good for long-term. Not long-term. I'd say like super short, medium-term, whatever. But if you're trying to hold it and trying to get money for from Palantir in less than a year, I personally, not investment advice, but personally, I think you're gonna have some problems with that just because of all the stuff I mentioned. There's a lot of issues that are in the market right now, and it's just a little bit troubling, and you won't be able to guess it as much. Now, if you're a long-term investor like me, I'm not going to basically sell this thing until 2030. The only time I'll ever really sell it is if Starlink IPO'd early, and I'll consider at that point, maybe. If you're a long-term investor, this shouldn't bug you at all. This should actually be great. Like, I mean, I've been talking to some of my, like, you guys know, like some of you guys in my comment section, you guys know, I've been literally talking about this for months now, where I'm like, please, God, please let Palantir stock get beat the hell up, okay, this entire year, because I need to put some money to work, right, after this tax bill or whatever. So I don't know why everyone's so upset. Just relax, guys. If you're trying to get money in the next year or two, yeah, you're screwed. Why are you in the stock? You should know the amount of retail that's in the stock. Be smart about it, right? But if you're trying to like push this for like long term, like 2030 or whatever, even 2026 or something that's shorter, like 5-year mark or whatever, right? This is a great stock to be in just because it's such a low, and they're showing so many indicators. They're hiring more salespeople, which is exactly what they need. They're starting to basically build more products. They promise that they're going to, modularized Foundry, which is a big thing that I was talking about. The developer community is out and about. Like, there's a lot of things that are out right now that are super bullish indicators that basically, guys, we didn't have 5-6 months ago. So if you like the stock at $20 odd 5-6 months ago, why would you not like it, in the low teens or like, high single digits, where all of this indicators coming in? Plus, they moved basically a big second account into Germany. This whole like company that I showed you in this past week, that's proof of that. They made huge deals with Merck, Hyundai, all that stuff in the past year. So, if you like the stock at 20, without any of that stuff, you should freaking love that stuff right now. You guys gotta just relax, man. Let the bears do their thing. I mean, it is what it is. It's the market. It goes up and down. But, you know, I would say just pay attention to the company, the stuff the company releases, and just keep track of all the stuff they're doing. And I think if you really look at it, there's a positive trend. And by the way, the last quarterly earnings report was actually pretty good. You just have to like really look at it and see what's important to you. If you're looking at something like EPS, and if you're just listening to mainstream media, it's gonna sound bad, right? But if you look into what SaaS companies need to actually progress, I think it's actually a fantastic report. So there's a lot of fear out there, guys. Just take it easy. If you don't want to buy, don't buy. You know, but at the end of the day, all you have to do is be a little stoic and just understand the company more so than the stock. If you have a long-term mindset, this thing will pay out for sure, in my opinion. That's how I manage my finances. Let me know what you guys are doing for yours. Are you buying? Are you selling? Let me know in the comment section below, man. This week, I want to shoot a bunch of stuff, so hopefully I can get some of that content out. Until then, until next time, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.